I didn't hear the slap. I heard the room go quiet. Crystal rang, cameras froze, and somewhere between the chandeliers and the stage banner that read 50 years of sterling legacy, my father smiled into the microphone and said, "Maya will not speak for this family anymore." That was the first cut. The second cut arrived 10 seconds later when a notification lit up my phone. Credit line draw. $85,000. Authorized by M. Sterling. Except I hadn't authorized anything. Not that night. Not ever. My name is Maya Sterling, I'm 33, and if you've ever been told don't make a scene while your life is being quietly edited out from under you, stay with me. This isn't a story about a bad party. It's about the document you don't remember signing, the debt you didn't make, and the exact minute you choose to let the paper tell the truth, whether people like it or not. I grew up in Harbor's Edge, a lake city that wears money like a raincoat, practical, smug, a little squeaky. My father, Leonard Sterling, runs Sterling Freight and Amp. Moorings, barges, docks, the kind of business that turns weather into invoices. My mother, Claudia, collects committees, hospital board, arts council, anything with a donor wall in the right font. I was their firstborn resume line until I wasn't. My brother Evan arrived like a parade. Blonde, broadcast, blessed. Dad said he had the Sterling face, by which he meant a face the newspaper trusts at the top of a story. I looked like someone who reads the footnotes. By high school, we were fluent in 2 languages, English and Sterling English. In Sterling English, "We're proud of you" translates to "keep your wins small," and "family first" means family image first. I left at 18. Scholarship. I became a school counselor, the kind who can spot a lie by how a kid's shoulders move. I built a quiet life 3 towns away, came home for holidays and the occasional strategic brunch. I learned to love distance without apologizing for it. Then the gala came, my father's 50th company anniversary, all ice sculpture and legacy myths. The invitation arrived heavy as a subpoena, black tie. Family remarks encouraged. Encouraged. That word sat wrong in my mouth. Still, I ironed my navy dress, tucked my hair behind my ears like a decision and told myself, no pass tonight. Applause, cake, exit. The ballroom looked like money trying to be light. White florals, a silent auction table heavy with trips to places we pretend to read about. On the photo wall, my childhood had been cropped to fit. My ribbon-cutting father, my perfect brother, my mother's profile like a coin. I was there and not there, a body at the edges of frames. It's an old family talent. Maya, my mother air-kissed, lips stopping just short of skin. We kept the program tight. No improvisation, please. Hi, Mom, I said. Love the fonts. Dad's handshake was a performance. 2 pumps, a jaw-set smile that measured my weight in optics. You'll keep it brief, he said, not asking. I won't be speaking, I answered. He didn't hear me. Evan arrived late and loud, the way a golden boy announces whether he believes he controls. He hugged me with that grip men learn from other men, the one that measures compliance. Try not to steal the show, he laughed. His cufflinks were little anchors. Subtlety isn't our shared language. The first hour was networking choreography. I played my marks. Mrs. Hawthorne from the museum, so proud of your family. Mr. Cho from the Port Authority, your father's a pillar. Compliments hit like styrofoam, present, weightless, hard to compost. When the string quartet took 5, a runner pressed a folded card into my hand. Remarks, 8:10 p.m., Maya Sterling. I found my mother near the donor wall. I'm not speaking. Don't make a scene, she said, smooth as cream. We need a woman's voice to round it out. Round out or round off? Please, she said, which in Sterling English means no. When the lights dimmed, Dad turned the mic into a mirror. He told the origin story. 1 barge, a storm, a promise. The American gospel sung in the key of I Did It Alone. He thanked Mom for her taste and restraint, Evan for his future at the helm. My name drifted by like a clause you'd miss if you weren't a lawyer. The crowd clapped on cue. Then he said it. Maya will not speak for this family anymore. The room went hollow. Glasses paused midair. Someone's laugh broke and kept going without its person. Dad's smile was careful. Cameras clicked obediently, capturing a man not saying a daughter's name. I didn't go to the mic. I went still. I learned that trick as a kid. Become the wall until the wall forgets you're breathing. That's when my phone lit up. Credit line draw. $85,000. Authorized by M. Sterling. The bank's helpful thumbnail showed a signed form. My name curled at the bottom in a confident loop. The loop was wrong. Mine tips left on the Y. This one bulged proud like someone performing me from memory. I looked up. Evan wasn't looking at me, he was looking at Dad. Dad stared into the middle distance where men store regret until it turns into policy. I could have left. Instead, I walked to the silent auction table. Lot 17. A framed 8 by 10 of my father shaking hands with a man I didn't know at a ribbon cutting I didn't attend. The placard read, "Legacy is a verb." I put my hand flat on the table so it would stop shaking. "Miss Sterling," a voice said. She wore a staff badge that read Orla and the expression of someone who has moved a lot of chairs. "You're up in 2. "I'm not speaking," I said again. "I'm doing something else." I stepped toward the document projector the AV team had left warming like a minor sun. I slid my phone under the lens. The notification filled the side screen, blue on white, official as winter. "That's fraud," someone whispered. "That's family," I answered in my head, and suddenly I wasn't afraid of the room anymore. If anyone watching has ever been told you're overreacting, don't make a scene, or family first, I said not into the mic, just into the air where phones would later remember it. Tell me where you're watching from and tap like so this reaches the person who needs it tonight. We're going to talk about a signature that wasn't mine and a line I won't let anyone cross again. Keep that promise in mind. The video you're imagining? It exists. We'll get there. Pattern interrupt. The quartet resumed to drown tension in civility. Dad clinked glass with the mayor. Mom reset her mouth. Evan checked his watch while not checking it. Orla slid near me like a rescue boat. "You okay?" she asked quietly. "Ask me in an hour," I said. "And if I ask you to email a file later?" "I was never here," she said, slipping me a card with an alias on it. "Every good gala has at least one conspiracy angel. I left before dessert." Orla looked up from a snake of cables. "Need that file." "Everything that hit the projector for the last 10 minutes, I said. "And if there's security footage of the doccam feed, that too." "We had a power flicker," she said, meaning, "I'll get it to you and no one will ask why." Outside, the lake made coins of the streetlights. I texted Noah. Noah isn't a boyfriend. He's not a lawyer. He's the math teacher down the hall from me who once fixed a vending machine by listening to it. He knows how numbers lie and how they tell the truth if you let them talk long enough. Me, are you awake? Noah. Teacher bedtime is 10 but truth ruins schedules. Me, bank draw. $85,000. Fake signature. Family event. Harbor Grand. Noah, don't leave alone. Don't confront. Screens plus chain of custody. I'm 10 minutes out. In the diner 2 blocks down, the one with pie that tastes like the Midwest apologizing, we built a chain of custody on napkins and phone photos. Noah listed steps like a magician revealing the trick. Capture. Screenshots, bank push, timestamps. Context. Where were you when it hit? Who can place you? Control. Freeze your credit. Lock profile. Call the fraud line on record. Corroborate. Someone inside who touches paperwork. Find Orla's boss quietly. Contain. Don't confront till your paper is heavier than their story. The fraud line played music like a waiting room trying too hard. I filed the report, got a case number that felt like a code I didn't want but would need. The agent said, "We'll review the authorization video." Video. Remote draws over a threshold pull branch cam if initiated on site. "Did you visit a branch tonight?" "No," I said and wrote, "Branch cam who walked in as me." Next step, Noah said, is motion. Panic calcifies. We don't let it. He slid me a pen. Write tonight as beats, not feelings. Feelings later. I wrote, program card. Orla. Loop wrong. Evan watches Dad. Mom resets mouth. Dad says I won't speak. That's not a speech, Noah said gently. That's an edict. I've had worse, I said. Sounded brave. It wasn't. What's the fastest route to a document we can touch? Marina Branch. Dad loves paper. Hates portals. Tomorrow morning, he said. You won't go alone. CDA 2.3 Thika. If you've ever had a document with your name on it that you don't remember signing, drop "I'm here" in the comments so the next person knows they're not crazy. Subscribe. I'm about to show you how an $85,000 draw tried to make me disappear, and the one pen stroke that proved I didn't. At 9:02 a.m., the Marina branch smelled like pens and printing. The manager, Mr. Dalrymple, had the face of a man who corrects commas in his head. I handed him my ID and case number. "We'll need to see the authorization," I said. Clicks. Frown. More clicks. "Odd," he said. "We have the signed forms scanned, but the branch cam feed is flagged." "Flagged how?" Noah asked. "Clipped. There's a gap of 23 seconds. Between what and what?" "Between the teller sliding the form and someone returning it." "You wouldn't say you." The pen pressure analysis. Yes, that's a thing. Showed a lift midway through the Y, like the writer lost their nerve and reset. Mine doesn't do that. I write like a person who's apologized before and is done. "Chain of evidence copy, please," I said. He printed 2, stamped and signed like he was swearing on a library. Outside, Noah said, "Don't spend this yet." "I won't," I said. "I'm going to Port Authority records." "Why there?" "Because every business Dad touches sheds permits and renewals like fish scales. And because a decade ago when I interned at his office, I watched a clerk with a tiny ship tattoo photocopy forms like she was saving lives. If anyone knows whether my name has been walking into offices without me, it's someone with ink that honest. Her name is Lena Park. She still has the ship plus reading glasses she wears like a weapon." "You grew cheekbones," she said. "Your dad's still wearing that silver buckle belt?" "He probably sleeps in it," I said. "Lena, I need to know if Sterling has been signing here since 2018. She didn't blink. "Public records request," she said, sliding a form. "I'll expedite because you brought your kids or lying face." While she printed, my phone buzzed. An unknown number punctuated like my mother. "You are embarrassing us. Come to the house. We'll handle this privately." I typed and deleted 10 replies and settled on, "Not without counsel." The word counsel tastes like salt and rescue. Lena returned with a stack 2 fingers thick. "Here," she said. "Renewals, permit modifications, collateral declarations. Your initials appear 8 times. "My initials," I repeated. "Not my signature?" "Both," she said. "Sometimes stamped." "Stamped?" Noah echoed. She nodded. "Office stamp. MS in a circle, the cheap kind you order from a catalog when you don't want to wait for the notary. First appeared 3 years ago. Cheap stamp. Clip video. Loops that bulge. My family wasn't sloppy because they were stupid. They were sloppy because sloppiness had always been forgiven." "Can I keep copies?" "Public record," Lena said. "Take the whole tree." Pattern interrupt. A tow truck rolled past pulling a barge worker's dented pickup, Sterling anchor logo flaking in the cold. Cables sang against steel. I thought about strings that make other things move. "What's the plan?" Noah asked. 2 tracks, I said. Legal and narrative. They've owned the family story so long they think it's property. We'll make the paper say otherwise, and then we'll let the truth breathe. "Start with a lawyer," he said. "Not a fight." "I know who," I answered. "Ms. Rivera, the adoption attorney who once made a judge cry with a single sentence. This child needs the kind of home the law pretends to understand. People like that don't mind storms. Rivera's office feels like competence has a scent." She listened without interrupting, took notes without dramatizing, and when I finished she said, "Good. You didn't confront. You collected. Now we notify and preserve." "Notify who?" "Bank compliance, port records, anyone who keeps logs. Also, you don't warn your family. You warn the systems designed to be neutral if you pull hard enough." "Will there be criminal exposure?" I asked. "If there's forgery, there can be," she said. "But you decide what justice looks like. Revenge is noisy. Consequence is specific." "What does specific look like?" Noah asked. Rivera ticked items like a metronome. "Emergency freeze on draws using your initials. Cease and amp. Desist on any stamp bearing your mark. Affidavit of non-authorization, under oath, filed today. Request for the bank's raw cam feed through counsel. And one more thing. Do not go to the Sterling house without me or law enforcement if invited." "I'm not going," I said. My phone buzzed again. "Come home. We can fix this. This time my mother used a period. She never uses periods." It felt like a door closing. Rivera leaned forward. Maya, she said, voice soft as a real blanket. You are not the scandal. Fraud is the scandal. Your decision to tell the truth is the correction. I breathed for the first time since the gala. At 3, Orla left a whisper voicemail. I pulled the projector cache. AV wipes at midnight. Backloading doc. Rivera raised an eyebrow. You keep interesting friends. I keep stage managers, I said. The file held 20 minutes of exactly what we needed. My bank alert on a 12-foot screen at 8:12 p.m. Timestamp burned there by a machine that doesn't care who your father is. Rivera smiled like a surgeon finding a tumor exactly where the scan promised. Tau we sequence, she said. Timeline plus motive. Motive is money, I said. It's always money. Usually, she said. Sometimes it's control spending money's face. We built the board, index cards, no red string because competence doesn't cosplay. Bank draw. Clip cam. Stamp order. Port permits. Dad's mic line card. Maya will not speak for this family anymore. Rivera tapped it. Use sparingly. Overuse dulls blades. I haven't told you about Aunt Joan yet. Not an aunt by blood but by frequency. My mother's oldest friend, the only adult who slipped me granola bars during openings when hors d'oeuvres were too proud to feed children. Joan runs Ledger Light forensic accounting that has saved more nonprofits than anyone will publicly thank. Bring me tellers, timestamps, transfers, she said. I'll bring you pressure points. By 5 she'd found the first. A bridge loan 2 months old secured on personal assets of MS. My assets fit in a 2-bedroom and a school counselor's salary. The collateral list read like a wish. It's anticipatory fraud, Joan said. Papered you in before you could object. If the bridge collapses, you get wet. How do we drain it? I asked. By naming it where money listens, she said. Banks don't care about your family tree. They care about their risk map. She drafted a letter so clean the paper felt polished. Rivera co-signed. The map changed. At dusk, Harbor Grand's ballroom had already replaced the gala files with a wedding slideshow. Orla had vanished into the polite invisibility that keeps cities working. My mother left another message, more punctuation. You are misinterpreting. Evan says this is all a misunderstanding. Come home. Misinterpretation is a luxury, Joan murmured. You can afford clarity. Midvideo tambiu noctata. Ager buria cater feta gorduisin abonoal, pined paper survival kit olarak byr kakajim. Ekran garantusi checklist I, chain of custody mini sablanu, bankaya / compliance a soilinsec net kumler. Yoram Lara paper performance, yes ki YouTube bu hikayi gizli kalmus digger odalara detazison. We didn't avoid the house. We scheduled it. Rivera insisted on neutral ground. My father insisted harder. My study. Tonight. Family only, his text read, which in sterling English means ambush. We didn't arrive family only. Rivera came. Joan came with a tote bag that said, numbers don't blink. Noah parked 3 houses down with a thermos, because some wars require teachers and tea. The study smelled like leather and winter and a little like old lies our walls learned to tell. My father stood behind the desk like an oak that had decided furniture was beneath it. My mother perched on the settee, hands folded into a museum donation. Evan leaned in the doorway, cufflinks winking. He didn't meet my eyes. Men who perform confidence avoid mirrors. Sit, my father said. No please. Rivera sat first, strategy before deference. We'll keep this brief. Here's a certified affidavit of non-authorization, a preservation notice for all internal comms about stamps and branch draws, and a request for voluntary cooperation before we move to formal demands. Dad laughed. He loves the laugh. You brought theater to my house. No, Rivera said. You brought theater when you made a speech about who gets to speak. He looked at me, really looked. If you wanted to be part of this family, you wouldn't have left. I didn't leave, I said. I stopped performing. Same thing, he said. Men who equate love with loyalty rarely learn the grammar of boundaries. Evan slid in. We had to move fast. Port renewal. It's just paperwork. Paperwork moves money, Joan said softly. Money moves things that crush people when they fall. The stamp, Rivera said. Who ordered it? It's a tool, Evan said. Everyone uses tools. Not with my initials, I said. He shrugged. You weren't using them. That sentence crossed the room and sat on my chest. Here's how this goes, Rivera said. You stop using Maya's name. You relinquish any MS stamp. You notify every entity where MS appears as signatory or guarantor that authority is revoked immediately. We agree on a neutral examiner for 10 years of filings. And you apologize in writing under oath that Maya's consent was neither sought nor given. My father's jaw worked like a machine that had lost a screw. Or what? Or we file, Rivera said. Civil and criminal referrals. We've preserved video. We have the bank letter. We have public records. We won't be noisy. We'll be boring and inevitable. My mother finally spoke, voice clinking like glass. Do you know what this will look like? Yes, I said. Accurate. Silence rearranged itself. Then, Evan's phone buzzed where he'd face down placed it. He ignored it. On the fourth he glanced, his mouth tightened. Problem? Joan asked, too gentle to be anything but dangerous. He pocketed it. Nothing. Let's make it something, she said. Read it. My father bristled. We don't answer to. Read it, Evan, I said, and for the first time my brother looked like a man who'd run out of stage. He read, Compliance alert. Branch cam raw feed restored. Clip anomaly resolved. Forwarded to outside counsel by request. Rivera smiled without showing teeth. Thank you, Mr. Dalrymple. Sit down, my father told Evan as if gravity had changed its mind. Joan laid 3 documents like tarot. Bridge loan with me as phantom guarantor. Port permit with the counterfeit MS stamp. Branch draw with a repaired video feed. Do you know what these make in a row? She asked. What? My mother whispered. A timeline court's like, Joan said. Because it isn't gossip. It's dates. This is obscene, my father said. This is family. Exactly, I said. And you don't get to own me to save it. The rest was messy, loud, human-old. Accusations sharpened. Excuses tried to sit on furniture that wasn't there. In the end, it wasn't my words that moved anything. It was Orla's file popping onto Rivera's iPad. The ballroom screen, donors' names reflected in glass. My phone's blue alert glowing like a lighthouse right when Dad said I wouldn't speak. That's enough, my mother said finally, wilted in a way I'd only seen once before. Leonard, call the attorney. Evan, email the bank. We'll sign whatever stops this from becoming bigger. Not bigger, Rivera said. Truer. We left without hugging. The door made the sound doors make when they know secrets will keep peeling anyway. On the sidewalk, Noah handed me tea. You did not combust. I wanted to, I said. But Joan likes dates. Dates save lives, Joan said, fishing a slim folder from her tote. Victim impact draft. Not for court necessarily. For you. The math is done. The meaning is yours. That night I wrote. Not rage, though I had enough to paint a barn. I wrote what it costs to learn a family's native language and choose to speak another. I wrote about the loop of the why and how mine tips left because I learned early to check exits in any room. I wrote the sentence I'd wanted all my life and never expected to earn. I believe me. Morning arrived like a clean sheet. The kind you're afraid to mess up and then remember. Sheets are for living, not preserving. Rivera texted at 7:01 a.m. Bank compliance wants a call by 8. Port Authority returned our records request at 9. Bring coffee. Bring receipts. I brought both. On the call, the bank's risk counsel, Ms. Abbott, had the voice of someone who had argued with storms and won. We've frozen activity on any authorization bearings until we complete review, she said. We recovered raw branch cam. The gap is gone. Gone? I asked. Restored, she corrected. The teller station recorded locally. IT pushed the wrong file first pass. We have the 23 seconds. What do they show? Rivera asked. I can't characterize until formal review. But there is a stamp in frame. Red. Circular. She paused. It's pressed twice. Joan, listening on mute, scribbled in her notebook like a conductor scoring thunder. When she looked up, she mouthed confession. Abbott continued. We've initiated an internal SAR. You know the rule. I won't confirm or deny beyond what's required. But you should assume we are treating this as a significant event. Next steps. Rivera said already there. We'll courier a certified copy of the authorization packet and branch footage to your office by noon, Abbott said. We'll reverse the draw if it's found unauthorized, but we need the formal affidavit you filed yesterday. We also need to know if there are other institutions we should contact. There are, Joan said, unmuting. And there will be more. We hung up. The room exhaled like it had been holding its breath through a museum tour. Noah poured coffee like a right. Twice, he said. Who stamps twice? Someone who missed the center the first time, Joan said. Or someone whose hand shook. Guilt shakes hands. I asked. Not always, she said. But consequences do. Lena texted. Port records ready. Iverson wants you in person. Brings the stamp order. The stamp order? Noah said. She sent a photo. A purchase order with MS desk seal circled in highlighter. The shipping address? Sterling Freight and Amp. Moorings exec office. The buyer? Sterling. We met Mr. Iverson in a conference room that smelled like paper had spent its life telling the truth and was tired but willing to keep going. He was the kind of bureaucrat every city prays for and few deserve. Meticulous, bored by spectacle, loyal to forms because forms keep people from bleeding. Your name appears here, here, and here, he said, tapping. Everywhere shows as deputy signatory, a role this office didn't create. Deputy signatory? Rivera said. Iverson slid over a memorandum signed by some interim director 3 directors ago, the kind of loophole someone can pilot a yacht through if no one's watching. Internal policy. Never made it to the public manual, which is my fault to fix. But it never authorized stamps as signatures. I'd like to formally revoke any deputy authority attributed to me, I said. Already drafted, he said, pushing a page. Sign here, the big spot. Initial there, the little spot. I'll post the revocation by close of business. And the stamp? Joan asked. He pursed his lips. If it entered the building, it's in a log. If it hit the page, it's in ink. Ink has memory. Meaning? Noah asked. Meaning we can see if the pad was dry the first time, wet the second, Iverson said. Meaning the pressure ring will tell us if someone leaned with hesitation. Meaning the fibers will keep the story even if a man with a belt buckle swears at me. Lena coughed to hide a laugh. I tried not to smile. Sometimes civic poetry shows up wearing a cheap tie. We signed revocations, gathered copies stamped the right way, and stepped into a winter sun that felt like a rare kindness. My phone buzzed, unknown. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, my mother's voice, brittle and bright. Maya, the donors are calling me. The paper is very interested in a comment. Come home and be reasonable. I forwarded the voicemail to Rivera. She's building a case for optics, Rivera said. Remember what we said, paper before performance. We went to Rivera's office to wait for Abbott's courier. We didn't talk much. Sometimes silence is a gear. At 11:58, a man with a bank lanyard and the guarded look of someone who had personally escorted worse news delivered a sealed envelope. Abbott's cover letter was precise. The USB drive inside was smaller than the trouble it contained. We watched. Play. Teller slides a form into frame. Pause. The pen. Pause. A hand not mine enters the edge of the image. Ring I don't wear, wrist wider than my wrist. Press. The stamp kisses paper off center, leaves a red moon. The hand hesitates, lifts, stamps again to hide the miss. Darker, harder, ink bleeding at the bottom where pressure dipped. Twice, Joan murmured. That's how you know a performance. Real signatures don't rehearse. The teller's name tag flashed, but not long enough to read. The camera caught a profile for 3 frames. I knew that jaw. Even so, I could draw it from muscle memory, the way our kitchen light always carved his face like the house was proud of him. We watched again. We watched until I could watch without shaking. I'm sorry, Noah said, which felt insufficient and exactly right. Rivera placed a hand on my stack of notes. We move carefully, she said. We do not leak this. We do widen the circle. I'll set a meeting with Bank Counsel, Port Counsel, and Sterling Counsel. Same room. No surprises. Surprises break deals. Deals? I asked. Deals are how systems apologize without saying they're sorry, she said. You'll get reversals, letters, reforms. Whether you want charges is your decision. Not today's. I breathed. The air didn't splinter. Pattern interrupt. A delivery scooter outside bellowed a jingle that made Joan close the window like she was swatting a mosquito with a statute book. "Sorry," she said. "I prefer my justice without a soundtrack." By late afternoon, our inboxes were a pinball machine. Abbott sent a draft reversal for the $85,000 and a paragraph I read 3 times for the taste of it. The institution acknowledges process failure in accepting a stamped mark as authorization and will implement immediate controls to prevent recurrence. Controls. My favorite word after cake. Then came the email from Sterling Counsel. "We trust this is a misunderstanding. Maya has always been generous with the family's endeavors. Let's avoid escalation." Translate from Sterling English. "You wouldn't hurt us, right?" Rivera's reply was a museum-worthy example of gentle knives. "We are eager to resolve through documentation and process. Kindly produce the original authorization, any delegations of authority bearing Ms. Sterling's wet signature, procurement for any seals bearing her initials, and the internal correspondence referencing Deputy Signatory. We are preserving all rights." 10 minutes later, my phone lit up with Evan. I didn't answer. He texted, "You're overreacting. Paperwork fixes paperwork. Don't burn the docs over a clerical error." I typed, "A clerical error doesn't buy a stamp." I didn't send it. Rivera says don't feed the record with versions you'd regret. Instead, I wrote in Joan's notebook, "Clerical error equals confession with the lights off." At 6 p.m., we walked into the bank's conference room. Frosted glass. Long table. Water bottles lined like apologies. Abbott sat with a man in a navy suit who introduced himself as Compliance VP. Across from us, Sterling Counsel, tie too bright, and my father, buckle shining like a dare, with Evan beside him, cufflinks small anchors again, the irony of which was starting to feel like slapstick. Abbott got there first. "We are reversing the draw pending final conclusion," she said. "We are also implementing a block on any authorizations under MS, effective immediately. Ms. Sterling, you will receive a letter for your records." "Thank you," I said. I meant it, and also knew thank yous in rooms like this are part of choreography. Sterling Counsel opened his folder. "Let's be frank," he said with a smile not attached to a face. "This is family. Family enterprises are messy. Delegations are informal. In communities like ours, we do business face to face. A stamp is not a crime, it is a tool." "Again with tool," Joan murmured. Abbott slid the USB across the table. "Please don't characterize what you haven't viewed." Sterling Counsel bristled but plugged it into his laptop. The footage played. He watched the stamp hit twice. He watched his client's son's profile slip into frame, disappear. He watched it again. He closed the laptop. "We can explain," my father said, which in Sterling English means we can distract. Abbott held up a hand that could direct traffic. "Save explanations for your own board," she said. "This meeting is to define remediation." Rivera laid out our terms, each sentence simple enough to survive cross-examination. Rescind draws, certify revocation, disgorge any fees, audit all files bearing MS, produce stamp procurement, put in writing that Maya never authorized delegate authority. "And one more," Joan added. "Meet with Port Authority to fix the deputy signatory nonsense you've been exploiting." Sterling Counsel did math in his head, the kind that weighs risk against image. "We can commit to that contingent on." "No contingencies," Rivera said. "Contingencies are how this began." My father had been silent too long for his metabolism. "You will not ruin us," he said quietly in a way that made the air colder. "You will not take my life's work because you want to feel important." He said it like a fact the lake had agreed to. "I'm not ruining you," I said. "I'm keeping you from finishing the ruin in me." He flinched like I'd thrown a stone at an altar. Evan looked at the table. His jaw moved like it wanted to form the first apology of his adult life and remembered it had somewhere else to be. Abbott adjourned with a list, Rivera with a signature line, Joan with a new tab titled Stamp Audit, me with a letterhead that said my name where it belonged. Mid-episode Sidi Tamburata. Bunaktea Katergeldisen Abo Noel, Pined Compliance Playbook Byr Kakajim. Bankaya Kuruma Limana Yazilakak 3 Kisa e Posta Sablanu, Muhervi Veklet Delini IP Jibisikan Net Kumlaral. Yoram Lara Inc. Remembers Yaz, Algoritma Bu Hikayi Kajet Uran Sesi Almayan Insan Lara de Tazasan. The next 72 hours were a machine. Letters in, replies out, signatures, notarizations, calendar holds. Joan lived on black coffee and checklists. Rivera moved with the patience of a metronome. Noah texted at ungodly hours. Hydrate, breathe, you're allowed to turn your phone off. My mother left voicemails in every dialect of disappointed. We could have handled this quietly. Why do you always choose drama? The Gazette is asking questions. I can't make this go away if you won't meet me halfway. I saved them. Paper isn't the only thing with memory. Orla sent a last gift. The AV logs showing what was recorded when, who accessed the system and from which accounts. Rivera smiled at the usernames. Everybody thinks the default password is a secret, she said. Lena found the stamp vendor. She called, pretending to be exactly what she is. A pleasant bureaucrat who can end your day or save it. Ship date, please. Payment method. Contact person. She wrote E. Sterling again, then circled company card in hot pink. Joan's spreadsheet grew a forest of tabs. Draw, stamp, permit, delegation, loan. In loan, she found the thing that unhooked the last excuse. Not just one draw. A bridge here, a credit line there, insurance writers tickling my name with polite theft. Small enough to hide in a budget. Large enough to drown a teacher. This was never about one night, Joan said quietly. This was scaffolding. Made of me, I said. Not anymore, she said. The Port Authority convened a hearing in a room where souls go to fill out forms. Mr. Iverson presided with a seriousness that made me want to bake him a cake. On one side of the table, Rivera, me, Lena with her ship tattoo and a binder that could stop a bullet. On the other side, Sterling Counsel, a company compliance officer who seemed to be learning the facts in real time, and my father whose belt buckle had somehow gotten shinier. We are here to correct the record, Iverson began. We are not here to reenact a gala. Lena presented the deputy signatory memo with a post-it, bad policy, retiring today. Iverson nodded. Good. Bad policies invite bad actors. Sterling Counsel tried, bless him. The memo established precedent. Precedents are ladders, Iverson said. Some help you reach better shelves. Some help you climb out the window. We entered into the record. My revocation, the bank's reversal, the stamp order, the 2 press video, the chain of custody logs. When it was over, the port clerk stamped our copy with the official seal. The circle landed clean once centered. The sound it made was a kind of music. When we left, Lena adjusted the strap of her bag and said, "Want to see something?" She led us to a small room behind records where office supplies go to be quiet. She opened a drawer, pulled out a plastic evidence envelope with the stamp inside, red ink smeared like a bruise. Someone had written on the bag in block letters, "M's unauthorized. Hold." I didn't touch it. You don't caress weapons you survived. But I looked until the fear loosened. What happens to it? I asked. It lives here where ink can't pretend, she said. Then chain of custody until court or audit. Or retirement. She tilted her head. You want a photo for your records? Please, Rivera said. Lena snapped 2 pictures. In the image, the stamp looks small. It is small. That's what makes it so dangerous. Most of the harm in this world arrives handheld. Back home, I answered emails from friends who had watched the ballroom video because Harbor's Edge pretends it doesn't gossip but talk moves like weather over water. Some were kind. A few were not. One said family belongs in kitchens, not courts. I typed family belongs where truth fits. I didn't send it. Not every lesson needs a student. At school, my principal closed my office door and handed me a sticky note shaped like a star. Said, "Proud of you, P." Kids still needed schedules, grief groups, the magic of somebody remembering their favorite snack. I kept doing the work that keeps small worlds from tilting. That weekend, Rivera forwarded a draft settlement. It had all the parts we'd demanded and one unexpected line. Sterling Freight and AMP. Moorings will institute a third-party internal audit of all signatory practices past 10 years and will publish a summary of changes. Public? I asked. Public enough, Rivera said. Donors like light. Sterling Counsel attached a memo from their side. In exchange, Ms. Sterling will refrain from public commentary that could be construed as defamatory. Rivera annotated in the margin. Truth isn't defamation. She suggested a swap. Ms. Sterling agrees to confine commentary to facts established in record. I could live with that. I have grown fond of facts. We signed. The bank reversed. The port revoked. The stamp went to sleep in a drawer it deserved. And still night sang. Not loud. A hum behind the door like a machine left on. Pattern interrupt. I woke at 3 a.m. to the sound of something soft against the window. Snow. The first of the season. The world asking to be rewritten in white. At 8 a.m. a knock. I expected coffee. I got Detective Rowe from the county's Economic Crimes Unit, plain clothes, plain voice, eyes that saw too much and didn't perform it. We received referrals from the bank and port, she said, flipping open a notebook already populated with my name. I'd like to take your statement. Rivera joined by video. Jones slid over a binder. Noah made tea like a civic duty. Rowe's questions were clean. When did you first receive notice? Who can place you at the gala? Who in the family had access to your information? Did any notary ever observe you sign? I answered. She wrote. At the end she closed the book the way you close a season. You did the hard part, she said. Most people call us with a story and no paper. You brought paper. What happens now? I asked. I chase process, not people, she said. But it tends to find both. That afternoon Evan texted again, meet. No lawyers. Just us. I didn't reply. I forwarded to Rivera. She said, he wants to pull you onto the stage where he's comfortable. We keep you in rooms with tables. An hour later my mother's voice arrived dressed in grief she might or might not own. He's your brother. He made a mistake. The donors are whispering. You don't want to be the reason the foundation loses a wing, do you? I almost laughed. We had reached the architecture phase of guilt. I didn't answer. I baked a cake. It's what my hands do when my head refuses to rehearse. Flour does not lie. Sugar knows how to wait. I left a slice for Noah on his porch with a note. For listening to vending machines and math and me. Sunday I sat with a blank page and wrote a letter to myself from the version of me that still believed a better performance could buy love. I folded it and slid it into the back of Joan's notebook behind Iha's memory. I keep it there to remember that mine does too. Monday brought the board. Not of the bank, not of the port. The board that governs image in our town. The Harbor Arts and AMP. Civic Foundation. Mom had been queen there since before I learned to read donor plaques. They called an emergency session. The agenda leaked till it wasn't leaking anymore. I didn't plan to attend. Then I thought they've been writing me out for years. I can at least show up to be counted. The ballroom where my father declared me mute had been reset with long tables and cappuccino machines. The same chandeliers. A different script. Public comments at the end, the chair said, tapping a gavel like a metronome. They discussed budgets and galas and a new sculpture that looked like very expensive driftwood. Then a board member raised his hand. Before we adjourn, we must address the sterling matter. The optics are unfavorable. My mother stood. Perfect posture. Perfect jacket. The performance of a lifetime. There has been a misunderstanding. My daughter is, she paused, searching for a word that would make me smaller without seeming cruel, confused. The chair lifted a hand. We received the bank's letter and the port's revocation, she said. We aren't confused. Silence. The kind of silence that breaks open a life. The board voted to suspend my mother pending review of governance practices. Not forever. Not punitive. Just the kind of pause that makes rooms safer. She didn't look at me. She left like a woman exiting a stage that didn't clap. Outside, donors whispered the way gulls argue over a French fry. I found a quiet corner and sat on the floor like a kid in a hallway between classes. Noah found me, handed me water, then sat without commentary. This isn't revenge, I said. What is it? He asked. Air. By midweek, Abbott sent a final letter. The drawer reversed, fees credited, account notes updated to require dual factor and wet signature for any action on file. She included policy updates. Cameras backed up to cloud hourly, teller training refreshed to ban stamps, escalation protocols tightened. It read like a small city choosing to be better. Port followed suit. The deputy signatory memo retired with a dignity it did not deserve. A new policy published in plain language. A little graphic at the bottom showing a cartoon stamp with a prohibited sign over it. Lena sent it with the caption, "We fixed a thing today." And still, Detective Rowe. She was patient. Process is a slow animal. We're preparing a charging packet, she said. It may go nowhere. It may go everywhere. It will go where the paper leads. I thought about charges. I thought about how the world loves a permutated version of justice where someone in handcuffs makes us feel like our own ghosts won't wake. I do not love handcuffs. I love guardrails. But I also love that men who think stamps are tools sometimes have to sit in rooms they don't like with people they don't control and say things aloud. Rivera reminded me, accountability has options. We can recommend conditions in a plea that fix systems, not just punish sons. Sons. She said it like a category in a weather report. A week after the board vote, a letter slid under my door. No return address. Inside, 3 lines in a hand I recognized from thank you notes to grandparents and lies about curfews. I did it. I thought ink was cheaper than truth. I'm sorry I made you pay. No ask. No bargain. No explanation that tried to turn gravity into a suggestion. I didn't write back. Not yet. Not because the apology wasn't real, but because real things deserve time to settle. Instead, I met Rivera and Joan for coffee and we drafted something that felt like a new genre. A community note. Not a blog post. Not a press release. A simple page of facts. On this date this happened. This institution did this. This policy changed. If you are in a similar situation, here is a phone number, a script, a checklist. We posted it to the Harbor Mutual Aid page because help has more addresses than any one office. The comments were a river. My ex signed my name on a car lease. My uncle used my SSN to open utilities. The nonprofit I work for uses a stamp because the director is always traveling. Joan replied to a dozen with templates. Rivera DM'd 3 with her assistant's calendar link. Noah answered 1 with nothing but, I believe you. It is perfect copy. It is also the only copy that heals anything. Pattern interrupt. Snow again. The city in hush mode. I turned off my phone and painted the red circle of the stamp from memory, once off-center, once clean. I labeled them performance and policy. I hung the second on my fridge. Late Friday, Rivera called. We have a hearing date, she said. Not a trial. A compliance hearing for Sterling Freight's practices. They will testify. You will have the right to speak. Optional. Optional, I said, tasting the mercy. I said I wouldn't perform. You won't, she said. You read. 10 sentences. Facts and the cost of those facts. No adjectives. The court can hear adjectives in your breathing. You don't owe them the syllables. Saturday morning I wrote those 10 sentences. On date. A bank draw of $85,000 posted to my line without authorization. A stamp bearing my initials was used as signature. Branch footage shows a person other than me placing that stamp twice. My name appears as signatory on multiple port documents I did not sign. A memo creating a deputy signatory role was internal. I never held it. The bank reversed the draw, changed policy and credited fees. The port revoked the memo and published clear rules banning stamps. My family used familiarity with systems to shortcut consent. The cost to me included time, counsel, safety, and the reassembly of my name. Paper held. I practiced reading them without adding color. It felt like learning to walk without turning it into dance. The hearing room was small, warm, human. My father looked like a man who had slept in a chair. Evan looked like a man trying to memorize humility. Sterling counsel looked like hair gel in a hurricane. The compliance officer swore them in. Questions moved like trains. Who ordered the stamp? Why did you accept it as signature? Who trained tellers? Who wrote the memo? My father tried to narrate a world where urgency sanctifies shortcuts. It did not play. Evan tried to describe culture. Culture lost to policy the way weather loses to physics. When it was my turn, I stood because chairs make my voice too quiet. I read the 10 sentences. I didn't add a single adjective. At sentence 9, I felt my throat wobble. I didn't hide it. At sentence 10, I set the paper down and placed my hand on it like I had placed my hand on the auction table. To stop the shaking and to claim the wood. The officer nodded. Thank you, Miss Sterling, she said. And then the line I will hear in my bones forever. Let the record reflect the record. Afterwards, outside, the air bit. Snow dandruffed the shoulders of men who believe jackets are for other people. Noah handed me a hat I'd forgotten in his car a week ago. You kept your verbs small, he said. Big verbs break, I said. We ate soup in silence. Then my phone buzzed. Detective Rowe, charging packet filed. Review pending. Timeline weeks. Breathe. I breathed. That evening, I hosted Open Documents Night at the community center. An idea Joan invented and Lena named. We brought template letters, a notary who cared about consent, an old laser printer with a temper, and 3 kinds of cookies. People came with boxes, envelopes, stories, and a look I recognized. The one you get when you realize paper can be a weapon or a door. At one table, a woman whispered, "My cousin signed my name on a mortgage." At another, a man said, "Our board uses a rubber stamp because the chair is golfing." At the copier, a kid asked, "Is a stamp like a signature?" And 10 adults said in unison, "No." We stayed late. We left tired. It felt like church, if church was made of checkout lists and staplers and no one pretending the miracle is one thing when it's really 10 small ones. End of part. Soft C. Ager bu balum diki adamler icing yeradisa. Pine baraktagum compliance playbook u in der v byrein gonder. Ozalikel ben sedis imza urin muher bastum, denelin yurlerd kalisen lara. Yoram lara paper performance vea, I believe me yaz. Barisi bu sazlari gorup bankanin karsasinda yalnas hisset mysek. The next morning I woke to sunlight the color of clean paper and thought I could live here. I made coffee. I checked my inbox. There, quietly like a gift that didn't want to announce itself, sat an email from Ms. Abbott with the subject line. Final, reversal posted / policy published. Attached. PDFs I could print and tuck into the folder labeled name, reassembled. Then another. Mr. Iverson sending a link to the new port policy, a photo of the cartoon stamp with a red no sign and a caption, "We retired the bad ladder." I opened the fridge. On it, the watercolor of the red circle labeled policy looked back. I stuck Iverson's printout below it with a magnet shaped like a tiny anchor that someone once gave me as a joke. Anchors are not funny anymore. They are what keep you when water lies. You might think this is where revenge would feel good. You would be wrong. Felt like level. Like the floor finally decided to do its job under my feet. And then the envelope came, hand-delivered by a process server with gentle eyes because not all doors require knocking like a battering ram. Inside, a notice that the county intended to present evidence to a grand jury. Not a foregone conclusion. Not a firework. A next part of the machine that moves when people put their names where they shouldn't and other people say no. I called Rivera. She said, "We will not be surprised. We will be ready." I called Joan. She said, "Bring cake." I texted Noah. He answered, again. That night I dreamed of the ballroom screen again, the blue alert huge and honest, the room frozen in a silence that taught me to freeze to survive. In the dream, the alert didn't say credit line draw. Said let the record reflect the record. I woke laughing. The kind of laugh that cracks old stories and lets light in. I woke laughing. The kind of laugh that cracks old stories and lets light in. The grand jury met on a Tuesday that smelled like copier toner and melted snow. I didn't go inside. Grand juries are oceans you don't swim. You wait on shore and read the tide. Detective Rowe texted 3 words at 4:12 p.m. True bill returned. Translation. There's enough paper to proceed. Not a conviction. A doorway. Rivera called. Your choice still stands, she said. We can press for maximum charges, or shape a resolution that fixes the harms that are fixable. Fixing is a verb I trust. Punishment is a noun that rarely feeds anyone. That night I made a list with 2 columns. Punish and repair. Under punish, headlines, handcuffs, donors stunned into silence. Under repair, restitution, public policy changes with names on them, training funds for tellers and port clerks. A grant to help anyone who had their name borrowed without consent. A real apology read into a microphone that records. I chose repair with teeth. Rowe and the prosecutor crafted a plea that looked like a blueprint. Evan would plead to attempted identity theft and forgery, accept a suspended sentence, complete 1,000 hours of service administering our open documents nights, and deliver a public apology at the compliance hearing follow-up. Sterling Freight would pay full restitution, fund a name defense fund at the library, and submit to independent audits for 3 years. My father would sign a consent decree. No board seats for any civic institution for 24 months, governance training, and a written acknowledgement that stamps are not signatures, filed in 3 places that don't forget. Are you sure? Noah asked when I told him. People will say you went soft. I didn't go soft, I said. I went specific. We stood under the portico the day Evan apologized. He wore the suit he used to save for weddings. When he read, his voice shook, and not from performance. I used to stamp because I thought ink was cheaper than truth, he said, eyes on the page. I made my sister pay. The bank changed because she asked it to. The port changed because she asked it to. Today I'm asking you to change me. He didn't look for me in the crowd. That was the apology's proof. The judge accepted the plea. No cells but no shortcuts. Or paper. Hours. My mother met me behind the courthouse in the kind of winter light that makes everyone look newly honest. She was smaller without her title on. You unseated me, she said. Not angry, astonished. I didn't unseat you, I answered. Policy did. She nodded once. Then help me learn the policy. She started coming to open documents night, at first standing stiff as a gallery guard, then gradually sitting, stapling, pouring coffee, whispering I believe you to anyone who needed a bridge. The Harbor Arts and AMP Civic Foundation issued its own statement. A rarity. We failed process. We're fixing it. They published conflict of interest disclosures and added a tiny, unglamorous line to every sponsorship packet. Signatures must be wet. Authority must be documented. The city applauded with yawns because reform never trends, it accrues. Mid-episode C. Kisa Ager Buraya Kater Iseldizen Abono. Yuma Record Rumor Yaz. Video nun Asaklamacina, Imza and AMP. Yetki Control Lastisi and I Byraktim. Bunu Indur Ve Byrein Gonder. Bugan Byronin Ismi Kirchler. Spring then summer. Open documents night, outgrew the community room, then the school library, then moved into the union hall where tables are built to hold weight. We trained tellers and custodians and night shift managers, people who actually touch the paper. We printed a poster in 3 languages. Muher is not equal to imza / a stamp is not a signature / unseo no es una firma. It hung in laundromats and back offices and one very fancy yacht club bar, where it clashed beautifully with mahogany. Evan showed up every Thursday. He didn't talk much. He set up chairs. He fetched forms. He taught nervous hands to say no to pressure. At hour 437, a teenager asked him, "Why are you doing this?" He didn't tell a story. He lifted the evidence bag photo of the stamp and said, "Because I did this." Hour by hour, his sentence turned into a habit. My father started governance classes at the library with a workbook thick as pride. The first week he argued with the facilitator like contracts could be convinced. The 3rd week he took notes. The 8th he brought cookies. The day he finished, he sent me a photo of his certificate without commentary. I printed it and filed it under systems that decided to behave. At school, kids kept needing grown-ups who remember birthdays and spelling lists and the names of the planets in order. I wrote a unit called Paper Trails: how to follow one, how to make one, how to protect one. 4th graders love stamps until they learn what a signature does. Then they love pens more. The night we launched the Name Defense Fund, I wore navy again. Not as armor, as continuity. The library atrium was full of the sort of people who build cities when no one's looking. Lena spoke first, holding up the retired stamp like a museum artifact. "This," she said, "is how the harm entered the room. These," she waved at the posters, the volunteers, the clipboards, "are how it leaves." I told the 10-sentence version of the whole story. No adjectives. At the end I added one more, "I believe me." The room said it back. It felt like the first time a choir finds its note. After, my mother hugged me the way women hug when they finally stop performing a role and start inhabiting a life. "I'm sorry I taught you applause before I taught you paper," she said. "You taught me both," I said. "I just learned to clap differently." Outside, the harbor was the honest color of steel. Noah leaned on the rail beside me. "You wanted justice," he said. "You built plumbing. Plumbing's what makes the music room smell like music," I said. He laughed. "Say the YouTube thing," he teased. "Do the tidy bow. If this story shook something inside you, hit like and subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because the real struggles you leave in the comments are the ones we break down in our Open Documents videos one by one. Drop, "I believe me," in the comments so the algorithm puts this in front of someone else who needs it. And from the link in the description, download the signature and AMP authority checklist. Send it to a bank, a port office, or a board manager. Maybe today an invisible line finally snaps. People ask for an ending. Here it is. The bank kept its promise. The port kept its promise. My family is learning the difference between privacy and secrecy. Evan finished his 1,000 hours and, without a court order, kept coming. The stamp sleeps in a drawer that will outlive our need to touch it. Some nights I still dream of red circles. Most mornings I wake to clean paper and coffee and kids who think policy is a kind of magic trick. Let the record reflect the record. I did not win against my family. I won with the part of us that decided finally to tell the truth. And when the line sings now, it's not a trap, it's a path. We follow it to the room with tables and pens and witnesses, and a small sign on the wall that says what we needed all along. It remembers. So do we.